I want to start today by invoking a very specific feeling.
Go.
It's a feeling I think everyone listening has had, probably as recently as this week, honestly.
Yes, sir.
You're at a dinner party, or maybe a work meeting, or you're just scrolling through Instagram, and you see someone who is just effortless.
Yeah.
Like they sit down at a piano having never taken a lesson and just play a jazz progression.
Or they walk into a high-stakes negotiation and just totally charm the room without breaking a sweat.
Exactly. They pick up a tennis racket for the first time and they have this perfect backhand.
Right. They're the natural.
The person who just has the magic dust. And when you look at them, you get that pit in your stomach.
It's not just jealousy either.
No, it's resignation. You
Yeah.
think, well, they have it and I don't. And the logic that follows that is pretty brutal.
It really is.
It's like, because I don't have it, why bother trying to be great? I'll just settle for good enough.
It is a super seductive narrative. I mean, it's the talent myth.
The talent.
Yeah. It tells us that success is basically a biological birthright for a lucky few and a closed door for the rest of us.
Which is pretty depressing.
It is, but it's clean. It's
Yeah.
simple. And honestly, it absolves us of responsibility.
Oh, I see. Like if I can't do it, it's not my fault?
Exactly. If you aren't a genius, it's not your fault. It's your genetics.
Right.
But here is where it gets really interesting, and this is where we are going to spend our time today. What if I told you that the whole concept of the natural is largely a hallucination?
A hallucination. I mean, that's a strong word. I've seen these people. They definitely exist.
They exist, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the story we tell about how they got there, that is a hallucination.
Okay.
And it's not just a harmless one either. It is a dangerous myth that is actively sabotaging your career, your relationships, and your happiness.
Wow. Okay, that is a massive claim. But we have the receipts to back it up today.
Oh, we do?
We are doing a deep dive into the absolute bedrock text on this subject, Mindset by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. This is the book that really changed how educators teach, how coaches coach, and how CEOs lead.
And we aren't just staying in the lab for this deep dive. We are going to pair Dweck's research with one of the most significant business case studies of the 21st century.
The transformation of Microsoft under Satya Nadella.
Exactly. We're going to look at how a simple shift in belief systems turned a totally toxic, stagnating giant into the most valuable company on earth.
So our mission today is to really uncover how a simple belief about yourself, literally just how you view your own abilities, guides a massive part of your life.
It determines everything.
It determines if you stick with a difficult math problem, if you bounce back from a bad breakup, or even if you lie about your test scores.
Yeah, the lying part is fascinating. We'll get to that.
So let's unpack this. Where does this whole story begin?
Well, it begins with a mystery in a classroom,
Mm-hmm.
or rather, a researcher who is just totally baffled by children.
This is Carol Dweck's origin story, right?
Right. Early in her career, Dweck was obsessed with a question that stumps a lot of us. How do people cope with failure?
Yeah.
Like, why do some people fall apart when they hit a wall, while others just seem to get stronger?
It's a great question.
So she sets up an experiment to watch it happen in real time. She brings these 10-year-olds into a room at their school.
So set the scene for us. Is this a high-pressure testing environment?
Not at all. It's friendly.
Yeah.
She sits them down and gives them a series of puzzles to solve.
Bring you their puzzles.
Yeah. And the first few are pretty easy. Everyone is doing fine. Confidence is high. High fives all around.
Sounds fun.
But then she changes the variable.
Hmm.
She slips in some puzzles that are effectively impossible for these kids to solve.
Oh, wow. So she deliberately induces failure.
Exactly. The curveball. She wants to see the cracking point.
Okay.
And she's watching them expecting a specific set of reactions.
Mhm.
She assumed that kids would have, different ways of coping with the frustration.
Like getting sad or throwing a tantrum.
Right. Maybe they get a little mad. Maybe they make excuses.
Yeah.
But she saw something she didn't expect at all.
She found the aliens.
That's honestly what she felt like. She found children who didn't just cope with the failure. They actually loved it.
Loved it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was this one 10-year-old boy confronted with a puzzle he absolutely could not solve.
Okay.
And instead of slumping in his chair or looking at the clock, he pulls his chair closer. He rubs his hand together, smacks his lips, and yells, "I love a challenge."
See, I have to stop you right there. Because that reaction just feels wrong.
It does.
Like if I'm failing at a puzzle or a project at work or a relationship, I'm not smacking my lips.
You're not rubbing your hands together.
No, I'm sweating. I'm looking for the nearest exit. That kid sounds almost pathological to me.
It does feel alien to the adult mind, doesn't it?
Completely.
And there was another kid who was sweating away, struggling, and he looks up at Dweck with this big, genuine smile and says, you know, I was hoping this would be informative.
I was hoping this would be informative. Who talks like that at 10 years old?
Kids who know something that most adults have forgotten.
Which is,
Dweck realized these kids didn't see their puzzle as a failure. They didn't think they were failing at all. They thought they were learning.
oh,
And that was the massive aha moment. She realized there isn't just one way to view human ability. There are two distinct operating systems.
okay, so let's define these operating systems because this is the absolute bedrock of everything we're going to talk about today.
The two mindsets.
Right. And I want to get really specific here because I feel like these terms get thrown around on LinkedIn a lot without people actually understanding the mechanics.
You're totally right. They are massive buzzwords now, but the
Yeah.
mechanics are very specific.
So what's the first one?
First, you have the fixed mindset. This is the belief that your qualities are carved in stone.
Carved in stone.
Yes. You have a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character. That's your hand of cards.
Okay, so I am dealt these cards at birth.
Exactly. You are dealt them at birth, and you just have to live with them.
So if I have a fixed mindset, my primary goal in life is basically to verify that I have a good hand.
Precisely. If your intelligence is fixed, then every single situation is a test.
A test.
Every job interview, every date, every conversation. It's a test to answer the question, will I look smart or dumb? Will I be a winner or a loser?
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Because if you only have a fixed amount of intelligence, you have to prove you have enough of it constantly.
It's like you're constantly on trial and you're the defendant and the lawyer all at once.
It creates a psychological prison. And here's the most crucial part to understand. In the fixed mindset, effort is a bad thing.
Wait, effort is bad.
Yes. Think about the natural we discussed earlier.
Right. The person who doesn't try.
If you're a genius, if you're a natural, you shouldn't have to try hard. If you have to sweat and struggle and study until 2 a.m., it implies you aren't actually smart.
Oh, I see. Because the natural wouldn't need to study.
Exactly. So people with a fixed mindset often just stop trying because effort itself is evidence of a deficiency.
That is a very twisted bit of logic. It's like saying, I won't try because trying proves I'm not good.
But it makes perfect internal sense to them.
Wow.
Which brings us to the second option, the growth mindset.
The operating system of those alien kids with the puzzles.
Right. The growth mindset is the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others.
Okay.
Now, I want to be very clear about what this is not.
Please do, because I think people hear this and think, oh, great, anyone can be Einstein. I'm 5'9". I don't care how much growth mindset I have. I'm not playing center for the Lakers.
Exactly. It is not magical thinking. It's not saying everyone is exactly the same or has the exact same potential.
Right.
It simply says that a person's true potential is unknown and unknowable.
Unknowable.
Yes. You cannot look at someone today and know what they will be capable of after years of passion, toil, and training.
So failure means something completely different here.
Totally different. In this mindset, failure isn't an identity. It's not, I am a failure. It's just an action. I failed.
I failed. Past tense.
And more importantly, it's a learning opportunity.
Now, there's a study from the University of Hong Kong that I think illustrates the real-world stakes of this perfectly.
Yes, the Hong Kong study.
Because it's not just about kids and puzzles, it's about your actual future career.
This is a classic example of how mindset dictates behavior under pressure.
So lay out the context for us.
So at the University of Hong Kong, all the classes are taught in English. But obviously, students come from all over, and their English fluency varies wildly.
Right.
For some incoming freshmen, this is a massive barrier. If you don't speak English well, you can't learn the physics or the history or the economics you're actually there to study.
So the university identifies these struggling students, and they make them a very logical offer.
Very logical.
They say, hey, we are offering a remedial English course. It's free. It will help you understand your classes and get better grades.
It's a total no-brainer, right? You need English to succeed. The course helps you learn English. You take the course.
But that's not what happened.
Not for everyone. The researchers measured the students' mindsets beforehand.
Okay.
The students with a growth mindset said yes. They saw a deficiency. My English is bad, and they saw a chance to learn.
Makes sense.
But the students with a fixed mindset, they said no.
That is just tragic. They jeopardized their entire college career. Why would they do that?
Because in the fixed mindset, If you take a remedial class, you are admitting you are dumb. You are exposing a deficiency to the world.
Oh, wow. So they would rather fail.
They would rather struggle in silence, risk failing their actual degree classes, and sabotage their entire future than admit they needed to learn.
Because asking for help is effort, and effort means you aren't smart.
Exactly. They were willing to sacrifice their actual education just to look smart in the short term.
It's the tyranny of looking smart versus actually becoming smart.
That is the core distinction.
And this belief system doesn't just affect students. It actually distorts how we view history and human accomplishment.
It really does. We have this tendency to look at great historical figures and just rewrite their histories to fit the fixed mindset narrative.
The narrative of the lone genius.
Right.
Oh, I love this part of the deep dive. Let's debunk some heroes. Take Thomas Edison.
The Wizard of Menlo Park.
The image in all our heads is him alone in a dark lab, furrowing his brow, and suddenly ping.
The light bulb turns on over his head.
Literally and figuratively.
It's a great movie scene,
Yeah.
but it's total fiction. The reality is that Edison was a highly savvy entrepreneur who basically ran an invention factory.
A factory.
Yes, he had 30 assistants, scientists, mathematicians, chemists. They were working around the clock.
30 assistants.
It wasn't one aha moment. It was a massive network of time-consuming inventions and literally thousands of failures.
So he was basically running a modern tech startup with a massive R&D department.
Exactly. He didn't just have it. He built it painfully over time by leveraging a team. But we ignore the team because the lone genius is just a better story.
A cleaner story. And what about Mozart? He's the ultimate example of the natural. We think he just sat down at a piano at age 4 and masterpieces just poured out of his fingers like water.
Mozart labored for 10 years before he produced any work that we actually admire today.
10 years.
10 years of hard labor. His early stuff was often patched together chunks from other composers.
He was copying people.
He was a mimic before he was a master. He was learning the language of music just like a baby learns to speak.
But we scrubbed that part of the story.
We do, because it's not as romantic as the divine gift.
And Charles Darwin, The Origin of Species wasn't written in a weekend.
No, it was half a lifetime of intense dedication, hundreds of discussions with colleagues, massive field research, and teamwork.
Teamwork.
But the fixed mindset loves the low-effort myth. We want to believe that greatness is effortless.
Why, though? Why do we want to believe that so badly?
Because it excuses us from trying. Think about it. If greatness requires that much work, then we have no excuse not to start working right now.
Right.
But if greatness is just magic dust that you're either born with or you're not, well, I wasn't born with it, so I can go back to watching Netflix.
Ouch. That hits incredibly close to home.
It's comfortable.
There's another area where this gift myth is totally rampant. Art.
Yes.
Specifically drawing. I can't tell you how many people I know say, oh, I can't draw, I just don't have the gene. Like there is a specific chromosome for sketching bowls of fruit.
And that is empirically false.
There's a fascinating example in the source material about Betty Edwards and her course.
Drawing on the right side of the brain.
Yes.
The before and after pictures in this section are just insane.
They really are. She takes people who draw like kindergartners, stick figures, weird proportions, completely flat images.
And then what?
In 5 days, just 5 days of instruction, she teaches them. And the after self-portraits look like they were done by professional artists. So what changed in 5 days? Did they get a brain transplant? Did she inject them with the art gene?
No. She taught them to see.
To see.
Edwards argues that drawing isn't a manual skill with your hands. It's a seeing skill with your eyes and brain.
Okay.
It's about perceiving edges, spaces, lights, and shadows. Those are learnable components.
So anyone can learn them.
Yes, but if you believe artistic ability is a magical gift, you never bother to learn the components. You just say, I can't, and you stop before you even begin.
This brings us back to schools. Because if we have kids walking around thinking effort is bad and ability is fixed, we're setting them up for a major crisis.
Dweck calls it the low-effort syndrome.
And when does this usually hit?
Usually hits in junior high. That's the major crisis point for a lot of kids.
Why junior high?
Because before then, elementary school is often easy enough that smart kids can just coast. They don't have to study.
Right.
But in junior high, the work gets actually harder. The grading gets tougher. The material requires actual dedicated study time.
So if you have a fixed mindset and you suddenly start struggling for the first time.
You have two choices. You can try harder, but remember, that risks proving you're actually dumb if you still fail after trying.
Right.
Or you can just stop trying altogether.
Because if you don't try and you fail, you can just say, well, I didn't study. You keep your ego completely intact.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism. It's ego protection. And it turns really ugly.
How so?
They blame everyone else. They blame the teacher. There's an actual quote from one of the students in the study who said, "The teacher is on crack."
The teacher is on crack.
Yes. They blame the subject. They say math is stupid. They do anything to avoid admitting they need to sit down and work.
But then there's the story of Jimmy. This one really got me.
Jimmy, yeah. He was the most hardcore, turned-off student in the study.
A total low-effort kid.
Disengaged, failing everything, staring at the wall. And Dweck's team comes in and starts teaching these kids about the growth mindset.
And teach them how the brain works.
Right. They teach them that the brain is like a muscle that literally gets stronger when you use it.
Yeah.
That when you struggle with a math problem, you are literally forming new neural connections.
And how did this totally lost cause react to that?
It was like a light switch.
Yeah.
Jimmy looks up with actual tears in his eyes and says, "You mean I don't have to be dumb?"
You mean I don't have to be dumb?
Yeah.
That just breaks my heart and heals it at the same exact time.
It's incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
He genuinely thought his low performance was a life sentence.
He thought it was his permanent identity.
Yes. And once he realized it wasn't, he started working.
Just like that.
He started handing in assignments early to get feedback. He went from being a failure to being a learner, all because he changed a single, simple belief.
But where do these beliefs come from in the first place? We aren't born thinking we're fixed.
No, we learn it.
And this is where it gets kind of scary for parents and teachers listening, because the data suggests we might be causing this with the absolute best intentions.
This is the praise paradox.
The praise paradox.
We think that to build a kid's confidence, we need to tell them how smart they are.
Right. You're so smart. You're a natural.
You're gifted. We chant this like a mantra on every playground and in every living room.
We think we are building them up.
But we are actually making them incredibly fragile. Dweck did a study with fifth graders to prove this exact point.
Walk us through it.
She gave them a fairly easy test, and they all did well. Then she praised them, but she split them into two groups.
Okay.
Group A got ability praise. She told them, "Wow, you got a really good score. You must be smart at this."
Standard praise.
Group B got effort praise. She said, "Wow, you got a really good score. You must have worked really hard."
So just one sentence difference, smart versus worked hard.
One sentence, but it changed absolutely everything that followed.
What happened?
Then she gave them a choice of a new task. She said, "You can choose a hard task that you'll learn from, but you might make mistakes. Or an easy task where you'll surely do well."
Let me guess. The smart kids chose the easy one.
Overwhelmingly. The ability-praised kids rejected the challenge entirely
Why?
because they had been labeled smart. If they tried a hard task and made a mistake, they might lose the label.
Oh, wow. They had to play it safe to keep the crown.
Exactly. The praise had terrified them of failure.
And the effort kids. The ones who were praised for working hard.
They wanted the challenge. They weren't protecting a fixed label. They were praised for a process.
So a hard task was just more opportunity to engage in that process.
Precisely.
But it gets worse, though, because later in the study, they gave these kids some really hard problems that they would definitely struggle with.
Yes.
And then they asked them to report their scores anonymously to students at another school.
This is the statistic that floors me every single time I read it. 40% of the ability praised kids lied about their scores.
They lied.
They lied.
Yeah.
40%. The label of being smart was so important to their very identity that they had to fabricate a victory to protect it.
That is profound.
We took ordinary, honest children and turned them into liars simply by telling them they were smart.
By telling them they were smart, we made them afraid of the truth.
Exactly.
It connects to stereotypes, too, because labels aren't always positive.
Right. Think about stereotype threat.
That's the idea that if you're in a group that is stereotyped as being bad at something, just being reminded of that fact can lower your test score.
Yes. Like having to check a box for your gender before taking a high-level math test if you're a woman.
It creates a baseline of anxiety.
If I fail, I confirm the negative stereotype about my group.
But here's the kicker that the source material points out. The growth mindset acts as an antidote to this.
It's a phenomenal defense. In a study on college calculus, women with a growth mindset maintain their sense of belonging in the math classes, even when facing heavy stereotypes.
How did they do that?
They viewed the prejudice as someone else's incorrect view. not a definition of their own actual ability.
But the fixed mindset women.
They felt they didn't belong the moment the math got hard.
So the mindset protects you. It's literally like a psychological shield.
It is. Because if your ability is growable, then a stereotype is just a lie.
Right.
But if your ability is fixed, a stereotype might feel like a prophecy.
Let's switch gears a bit to a place where natural talent is practically a religion. Sports.
Oh yeah, sports is the absolute temple of the fixed mindset. We love the narrative of the God-given athlete.
We talk about their bodies and their instincts like they are divinely ordained.
But let's look at the actual data. Let's talk about Billy Beane.
Most people know him from the movie Moneyball, where Brad Pitt played him.
Right. But before he was the stats-obsessed general manager, he was a player himself.
And he was a natural.
He was the ultimate natural. He had all the physical tools, speed, power, the look. The scouts absolutely drooled over him.
But he had a fixed mindset.
He believed talent should be effortless. So when he got to the major leagues and things went wrong...
Which they always do in baseball, it's a game built on failure.
Exactly. When he slumped, he fell apart completely.
He didn't have the mental tools to handle it.
He would break bats. He would spiral emotionally. He couldn't fix his mechanics because he believed he shouldn't have mechanics problems in the first place.
Because if he had to tinker with his swing, it meant he wasn't a natural.
Right. And going through that painful experience is what actually made him such a visionary GM later on.
Because he realized what actually mattered.
He realized that the athlete mindset, the growth mindset, was far more valuable than pure natural talent.
So he started looking for different kinds of players?
He looked for players like Lenny Dykstra, guys who maybe didn't look like Greek gods, but who totally didn't care if they failed. They just kept grinding and learning.
And then there's the ultimate example in sports. Michael Jordan. The man. The myth.
People always forget this. Jordan was cut from his high school varsity team.
He was cut.
He wasn't a natural in the way we usually think of it. He was an absolute workhorse. He missed 9,000 shots in his career. He lost 300 games.
But he used that failure.
He used it as fuel. He was never afraid of it. Contrast that attitude with someone like John McEnroe.
Oh, man, McEnroe, the bad boy of tennis.
Textbook fixed mindset. He had incredible talent, maybe more natural talent than anyone who ever played the game.
But he didn't love to learn.
And when he lost, the excuses were legendary.
I remember reading about the sawdust excuse in the book.
Sawdust, yes.
Yeah.
He once lost a match and threw an absolute fit because the sawdust on the court was chopped too fine.
Chopped too fine.
He said it looked like rat poison.
Come on. Rat poison.
I'm totally serious. It was never, ever his fault. It was the crowd noise, the temperature, the umpire, the sawdust.
This is the ultimate blame game.
When you have a fixed mindset, you cannot accept failure because failure defines who you are.
So to save yourself, to save your identity, you have to blame something external.
Exactly. It wasn't me, it was the sawdust.
And McEnroe had this view of success that I think is really toxic. He thought being number one meant people had to just kiss his behind.
The groveling view of success. He didn't just want to win. He wanted to be inherently superior to everyone else.
Right.
Now contrast that with Pete Sampras. When Sampras was losing a match at Wimbledon, he didn't throw a tantrum or yell at the umpire.
What did he do?
He reflected on his past comebacks. He adjusted his mindset in the moment. He didn't want to be better than people as a person. He just wanted to play his best possible game.
That's the real difference between character and just talent. Character is what keeps you at the top. Talent just gets you in the door.
Precisely. Talent without character is incredibly fragile.
Now, if we take this exact dynamic, the talent versus character, the fixed versus growth, and we scale it up to an entire corporate organization, what happens?
You get CEO disease.
CEO disease, which sounds painful.
It is very painful for the shareholders.
Okay.
CEO disease is when leaders choose to look perfect rather than confront their actual shortcomings.
Okay.
They surround themselves with yes men, and they completely stop learning.
Like Lee Iacocca at Chrysler.
Perfect example. He started out as a hero. He saved Chrysler from bankruptcy. But then he just stopped innovating.
He kept releasing the exact same car models year after year.
While the Japanese car market was totally eating his lunch. But he spent his time worrying about his public image, his autobiography, his legacy.
He had a fixed mindset. I am a genius, therefore my ideas are perfect.
Exactly. And then there's Enron, the ultimate talent mindset company.
Oh man, Enron.
Enron recruited talent aggressively. They went to the top business schools and hired the smartest guys in the room.
But they created a culture where you had to be the smartest guy in the room at all times.
Yes. Admitting a mistake at Enron was essentially a death sentence for your career.
So what did people do?
They hid their mistakes, they lied, they inflated the numbers. The fixed mindset culture of "we are the smartest" led directly to one of the biggest corporate collapses in modern history.
So let's look at the antidote to that toxicity. Let's look at the Microsoft turnaround. This is the Satya Nadella case study. And I really want to dig into this because it shows how you take these academic psychological concepts and apply them to a trillion-dollar entity.
This is truly one of the most remarkable corporate transformations of the 21st century, and it is explicitly based on Carol Dweck's work.
So set the scene for us. Before Nadella, you had the Steve Ballmer era.
Right, and look, Ballmer was a brilliant business mind in many ways, but the culture there had become completely stagnant.
It was the fixed mindset writ large.
Absolutely. Microsoft had missed the mobile phone revolution, they missed the cloud revolution early on, and the internal culture was notoriously cutthroat.
I've heard the stories. Dog Eat Dog doesn't even begin to cover it.
There was a famous cartoon from that era showing Microsoft's org chart as different gangs pointing guns at each other.
Because they used a system called stack ranking, right?
Yes, stack ranking.
Explain that for the listeners because it's wild.
Stack ranking meant that every single manager had to rank their employees from best to worst on a bell curve. And a certain percentage at the bottom had to be fired or penalized, no matter how good the overall team was.
Wait, so even if I manage a team of absolute all-stars, I still have to fire one of them?
Yes. Someone has to be at the bottom of the curve.
So imagine what that does to collaboration.
It destroys it. If I help you on a project and you get a better performance review than me, I might literally lose my job.
So nobody helped anybody.
It was pure, unadulterated internal competition. And Ballmer himself famously modeled this fixed arrogance. He mocked the original iPhone.
He laughed at the price tag, didn't he?
He did. He said, $500. No chance. That is the ultimate know-it-all attitude.
We know better than the market.
Right. Then in 2014, Satya Nadella takes over as CEO.
And he's an insider. He's been at the company for 18 years. But he has a completely different philosophy.
The shift from know-it-all to learn-it-all.
Learn it all. That's a great phrase.
That was his actual mantra. And he explicitly credited Carol Dweck. He literally handed out copies of Mindset to his senior executives. Yes. He wanted to change the culture from one where you had to prove you were the smartest to one where you had to show you were learning the fastest.
So what did that actually look like on the ground? Because changing the culture of 100,000 people is no joke.
It meant creating psychological safety. It meant you could actually admit a mistake without being fired.
That's huge.
It meant collaboration wasn't just a poster on the wall. Nadella started partnering with their biggest rivals.
He brought Microsoft Office to the iPad.
He embraced Linux, which Ballmer had previously called a cancer.
Microsoft loves Linux. I remember that headline. It was shocking.
It was a massive growth mindset move. It was Nadella saying, we aren't the center of the universe. We need to learn from the rest of the ecosystem.
And there was a specific moment where Nadella himself had to publicly model this, right? The hit refresh moment.
Yes, this is crucial. Early in his tenure as CEO, he was speaking at a conference celebrating women in computing.
Okay.
And someone asked him for advice for women who want to ask for pay raises.
And he gave a very old school fixed mindset answer.
He did. He said women shouldn't ask for raises. They should just trust the system to reward them eventually, that karma would take care of it.
Oof. That did not go over well, I imagine.
It was an absolute PR disaster. The backlash on the internet was immediate and fierce.
Now, a fixed mindset leader might have doubled down or blamed the media for taking it out of context.
Or made excuses, yeah. But Nadella didn't.
What did he do?
He sent an email to the entire company the very next day. He said, I answered that question completely wrong.
He just owned it.
He admitted he was learning. He modeled that even the CEO of a trillion-dollar company can be wrong and needs to grow.
And the results of this entire culture shift just speak for themselves.
The stock price went from $30 when he took over to over $90 within a few years.
And much, much higher since then.
Employee approval of Nadella hit 95%. They successfully pivoted to the cloud with Azure, and now they lead in AI.
Microsoft became relevant again simply because they decided they didn't know everything.
It's so powerful because it shows this isn't just fluffy self-help advice. It literally adds billions of dollars of value to the global economy.
Knowledge is valuable, but the capacity to learn is invaluable.
Perfectly said.
So we've done school, we've done sports, we've done big business. Now we have to talk about the one area that might be the most sensitive of all.
Relationships.
Love. Because I think a lot of us have a fixed mindset about love without even realizing it.
We absolutely do. Think about the phrase, they lived happily ever after. Or searching for the one.
The one.
These are fundamentally fixed mindset concepts.
The idea that if it's truly meant to be, it should just be effortless from day one.
Exactly. In the fixed mindset, your ideal mate is someone who puts you on a pedestal. They make you feel perfect just as you are.
And importantly, there should be no conflict.
Right. If we fight, it means we aren't compatible. It means the relationship is broken.
And there's the mind-reading expectation, too.
Oh, the mind-reading trap is huge. If you love me, you just know what I need.
That is pure fixed mindset.
It assumes that deep understanding is a fixed trait. You either have it naturally or you don't. It refuses to accept that understanding takes active effort and communication.
So what does a growth mindset in love actually look like?
It's not about finding someone who thinks you're flawless. It's about finding someone who sees your faults and actively help you work on them.
That sounds healthy, but definitely a lot harder.
It's about seeing conflict not as a sign of doom, but as a vehicle for developing the relationship. It is work, but it's the work that sustains a marriage for 40 years.
There is also a really serious application of this regarding mental health. The outline mentions a study on depression in college students.
Yes, the February-March study. They tracked college students during those gloomy winter months when academic pressure is peaking.
And what did they find?
They found that students with a fixed mindset, when they got depressed, they basically let everything slide.
Like they stopped going to class.
They stopped going to class, they didn't turn in assignments, they neglected chores. Their internal monologue was, I'm a loser, I can't do this.
The depression became an identity.
Exactly. And the growth mindset students, they felt just as bad. They were just as clinically depressed.
But their behavior was different.
Completely different. The worse they felt, the more determined they became to confront their actual problems.
So they dragged themselves to class.
They dragged themselves to class. They kept up with their daily lives. They viewed the depression as a severe problem to be solved, not a permanent definition of their soul.
That is a life-saving distinction.
It really is. It shows that mindset doesn't prevent pain, but it radically changes how you navigate through it.
Okay, so we've unpacked the problem. We see the two worlds clearly now. The million-dollar question is, how do we change?
Good question.
If I'm listening to this right now and realizing, oh no, I have a massive fixed mindset, am I just stuck with it?
No. Thinking you're stuck with it would be a fixed mindset view of mindsets.
Oh, right. Good point.
You can change. It's a belief, not a biological imperative.
So what are the practical tools? One of the best ones mentioned in the source material is the power of yet.
I love the power of yet. It's incredibly simple, but effective. You just add the word yet to the end of any negative sentence about your own abilities.
So instead of saying, I'm not good at math,
You say, I'm not good at math yet.
I haven't solved this problem.
I haven't solved this problem yet. It instantly opens up a path to the future. It signals to your brain that this is an ongoing process, not a final destination.
And we also have some great tactical advice from Mount Mercy University on how to cultivate this daily.
Yes. One of their key tips is to simply acknowledge your imperfections,
Stop hiding from your weaknesses.
because hiding from them guarantees you will never overcome them. You have to be like Satya Nadella sending that company-wide email. Own the mistake.
And viewing the brain as a muscle.
This is a great daily visualization. Every time you struggle, every time you learn something hard, you are literally forming new physical connections in your brain. It is getting denser and stronger.
They also mention cultivating grit.
Pure determination and tenacity. And valuing the process over the result.
Which is really hard in our great obsessed culture.
It's very hard. But you have to learn to genuinely enjoy the learning, not just the A on the final test.
There's a warning here too, though, something called the false growth mindset.
This is really important because Dweck's work has become such a corporate buzzword, and people often get it totally wrong.
What is a false growth mindset?
It's when you just praise effort, even when the result is terrible, and no actual learning is happening.
Like saying, well, good job trying, even though the kid completely failed the math test and didn't learn why.
Exactly. That's just a cheap consolation prize. True growth mindset is about trying new strategies.
So if effort isn't working, you don't just try harder at the exact same wrong thing.
You try differently.
Yeah.
You ask for help. You change tactics. It's about the learning, not just the sweating.
So it's not just handing out participation trophies.
Definitely not. It's about real accountability for growth.
Well, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from the puzzle room to the boardroom.
We've debunked the myth of the natural athlete and the lone genius.
And we've seen that this isn't just about feeling good about yourself in the morning.
It's about actual performance. It's about resilience. It's about the difference between a company that collapses in a scandal like Enron and a company that reinvents the future like Microsoft.
And it's about the difference between a student who gives up and calls the teacher a name and one who says, I was hoping this would be informative.
That's the key right there.
So so what for you, the listener? Whether you are a parent, a boss, or just someone trying to learn how to play the guitar at age 40, the way you talk to yourself truly matters.
And the way you praise your kids matters.
Absolutely. Stop praising talent. Stop praising intelligence. Praise the strategy. Praise the perseverance. Praise the focus.
Yes.
And I want to leave you with a final thought today. In the book, Dweck mentions a product she saw advertised once. It was called the I Love Me mirror.
Well, I remember this.
It was an actual mirror with I love me written in huge block capital letters right across the bottom.
So you just look in it and get this instant, unearned validation.
The ultimate fixed mindset piece of furniture.
Totally.
It's essentially saying, you are perfect exactly as you are. Just admire yourself. But here's the provocative question I want you to mull over today.
Okay.
If you had to choose between a mirror that tells you you're smart and perfect right now, or a window that shows you a world of challenges that will make you struggle, make you fail, but ultimately become smarter tomorrow, which would you honestly pick?
And more importantly, which one are you holding up for your children and the people you lead?
Think about that. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.